We're ready. Okay. I will now call to order the study session meeting of March 15th, 2023. Members of the public are invited to attend city council meetings in council chambers and the lower level of City Hall. Public access to the meeting is also available on the Local Government Access Channel 8 for Comcast subscribers and on the city's YouTube channel online. Joanna, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Leidy,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Luqman Hiramasa,
Here.
Councilmember Long,
Here.
Councilmember Jaramillo,
Here.
Councilmember Kondo,
Here.
Councilmember Goff is absent, Councilmember Brown is absent, Councilmember Walker.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, so just to note, we do have four applicants tonight. The final candidate withdrew today. So we're gonna stick to the schedule as written though, and we are running just a few minutes behind. Any questions before we begin?
No, ma'am.
Nope, excellent, so I think we're ready.
Mayor, are you going to recognize us as we go through the answer the,
No, we'll just take turns.
just take our turns?
Yep,
Okay.
it just saves their time. Good evening,
Good evening to everybody.
thanks for being here.
Thank you for calling me.
So tonight, we have 8 questions for you. There is a
Okay.
9th question, which gives you an opportunity to add on anything that you would like. So,
Okay.
and you have 20 minutes, so there is a timer in front of you. So go ahead and monitor your own time. The members of city council will take turns. So I have question 1, and then we will just go around the dais.
Okay.
And we will be taking notes. So if we're not making eye contact, it's because we're
Okay.
scribbling down and trying to capture what
And
you
I'll be
have.
trying to look at my notes.
Perfect, perfect. All right, so I have the very first one. What personal attributes do you have that set you apart from others as the best person to fill this vacancy?
I think I'm a peacemaker, and I am a person who believes in getting all sides of an issue. My point of view is not constrained by any particular line of thinking. I just go with it as the problem emerges and try and solve the problem in a creative way. Voice is a little weak tonight. Might be nervous, I don't know.
Okay.
Great. Welcome, Stephen.
Thank you.
I have your second question. What do you see as opportunities and challenges facing our city? And then also, what do you see as the opportunities and challenges facing Ward 1, if any different from the city?
Well, first of all, I don't think the challenges are markedly different between Ward 1 and the rest of the city. And I do think that one of the really big issues is the homeless issue. It's becoming really more important for every city. You know, as you look at Denver's problem, all the candidates for mayor are really weighing in on that issue because it's really a hotbed issue. And I think that's probably one of the biggest issues for Northwood. I was on the task force for homelessness, and I just came up with the conclusion that there is only so much a small city can do. And, but we don't want to be throwing them in jail and creating a bad situation for the city or for them.
Thank you.
I hope that answered your question. I prepared short answers because I thought you were going to ask all 20. I misread the communication, so I'm trying to be brief.
It's totally.
Good evening, Mr. Blackburn. It's my turn over here.
Oh, okay.
Describe how you would react to a situation in which the council voted 5-4 to approve a very controversial issue, and you were on the dissenting side.
I would support what the majority wants to do. If the majority is totally off base and in the wrong, I would certainly voice my objections and stridently try to convince them otherwise. But if it's a vote, that's it. I go with it. I will support whatever the majority decision is.
Great. All right, I have a next question. What are areas of spending that you feel should be increased or decreased?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear you on that.
What areas of city spending do you feel should be increased or decreased?
Well, I noticed that we're getting a new economic development manager, and I think that's a great move. I think, obviously, when we can increase our tax-based revenues, we're in better shape to handle the problems of the community.
Okay, Mr. Blackburn, Rich Kondo here. And my question is, I'd like you to explain your understanding of city council's role and this city manager form of government. How would you work to govern effectively according to our city charter?
Well, I'm really glad to see this is a progressive form of government. I'm glad to see that, and it's been in existence for many, many years, since the early 1900s. And it's like the mayor is the chairman of the board, and the city council are the board members, and the city manager is then the CEO of the city, particularly the bureaucracy and the workings of the government. You know, that's how I can be effective, I think, is a little up in the air since I haven't worked with many of you before. So I would look forward to working with you and having everybody achieve their best.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Blackburn, good evening, sir. What is your area of strongest disagreement with any action taken by the city council in the past 3 years, sir?
You know, I thought and thought about that. And I don't see anything that I strongly disagree with. In fact, I'm delighted with the mayor. I'm sorry, I'm not politicking. I'm just really glad that we have such an enlightened mayor. And a good council, as far as I know.
Well, thank you, sir.
Yeah. I know a few of you. I know Nick pretty well.
Great. I actually have the next question.
All right.
And it is, what steps do you take to eliminate bias from your behaviors and decisions?
What steps would I take to,
Eliminate bias.
oh, bias, oh my goodness. Big deal for me. I really don't like bias or non-inclusion or divisiveness. I like to be a part of the whole and have the whole work very homogeneously together. And, you know, personally, I've hired homeless people. I don't have, everybody has prejudices. I mean, everybody does. And mostly it's for the outward opinion or appearance of someone. And I'd rather get to know the person and not make judgments, at least to begin with. Because everybody has a story and everybody has a right to speak.
Great, thank you.
You can ask me more if you want.
All right, question 8. Please complete this sentence. A city council member should.
Be honest, forthright, inclusive, and not have an agenda. In this format, an agenda, a political agenda, is not really appropriate, in my opinion. You know, I have biases just like everybody else, but I am certainly willing to consider other opinions. I just don't come in with a dogma. And, you know, you have to be forthright, say what you mean, and mean what you say. Ask hard questions. Above all, be for the people of this city, and that includes all the publics.
Great, thank you. So you have 11-ish, 11 and a half minutes left. And so the final question is just, is there anything else you would like to tell us?
Well, you know, that's one I didn't write down, didn't think about that. No, just rest assured that I am honest, maybe to a fault. I try not to rankle people or ruffle feathers, but sometimes that's necessary. And, you know, I am totally interested in moving the city forward in every way possible, and, you know, including public relations and the media and so on. I have lots of ideas for economic development and that kind of stuff. And I have, you know, management experience, so I really kind of understand bureaucracies and when they do and don't work well.
Thank you. Well, thank you for your time
Well,
this
thank
evening.
you.
We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. And any other questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Well, we ask the same ones to everyone.
All right.
So thank you
Then-
so much.
You betcha.
Have a good
See you
night.
now. Bye.
Night.
Oh, now we're back on time. I think so. Yeah, thank you. Hello, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good, good, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have 20 minutes for the interview, and there's a clock there so you can manage your own time.
Cool.
There will be 8 questions with kind of a 9th bonus if there's anything you want to add to something that you haven't shared. We will take turns asking questions, and then we're taking notes furiously, so
Okay.
if we're not looking at you, it's because we're trying to capture what you're saying. And we're ready to go. So
Awesome.
I have the first one. What personal attributes do you have that set you apart from others as the best person to fill this vacancy?
Yeah, I think there's quite a few. I mean, I am a mother, and so like I've definitely learned to multitask and sort of prioritize. And I think coming from the marketing industry has really given me the sort of skill set to pivot when need to, future-proof and like looking to trends and sort of what's coming down the pipeline and how to plan for the future, as well as communicate. You know, I do communications by trade, and, you know, I think it's really good to be able to talk to the public, talk to my peers, talk to stakeholders in a way that, you know, everyone understands what's going on. You know, I call it, you know, the meeting of the minds in legal terms is really, really important.
Welcome, Megan.
Hi.
I have your next question.
Yeah.
What do you see as challenges or opportunities and challenges facing our city? And what do you see as the opportunities and challenges facing Ward 1, if any different from the city?
Yeah. I mean, opportunities are abound. My family chose to live in North Glen just about a year ago. March 1st was our closing date last year, so snuck in here for the Ward 1 opening. But the location is amazing. The community is amazing. When I got my welcome package after we bought our house, I knew this was something that I was gonna love. And I just think like the parks, the Greenway path that's right by my house, like I love all of this. The community feel is amazing. I think some of the places for growth are the same throughout the state and the country that are sort of experiencing right now with, you know, unhoused population, crime, and sort of just that. And so I think like Ward 1 in particular, at least what I would love to see grow and change about that is like more community places. We have 3 restaurants in Ward 1 total. You know, the one that I can walk to is the KFC on Washington, so it's not the most like walkable space. You know, the Glen is amazing, Mercedes is great, like don't get me wrong, but I would love to see more walkability. I would love to see more like coffee shops, and I would love to see more local and small businesses come to North Glen as opposed to sort of these like big box stores.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Hello,
Hi.
welcome.
Thank you.
Describe how you would react to a situation in which the council voted 5 to 4 to to approve a very controversial issue, and you were on the dissenting side.
Yeah, I think like, you know, with most things in life, you don't always get what you want, right? But I think I will always vote for what is best for the people. And so even if, you know, the decision doesn't go my way, or what I think is the best for Ward 1, I would fully understand and respect my fellow council members and, you know, work towards maybe finding some kind of change or something else that we can come as like a partner amendment to that bill or that, you know, decision further down the line. You know, I kind of believe that, you know, two things can be true at the same time, which you learn a lot. And, you know, being a parent, like, I can have a bad day, but, you know, I still love my son and I'm still like a good, capable person. And so I think it's just like, you know, two things can be true. Like, okay, this is how this is gonna go, and you just pivot and you make the best of that situation and grow and change, and maybe I'll find out I was wrong. Who knows?
Great, I have your next question.
Yeah.
What areas of city spending do you feel should be increased or decreased?
Yeah. I sit on CAB, and you know, we recently discussed snow removal. I'm also originally from the East Coast, so I definitely have a different perspective on that. And so I think like after talking with, you know, Public Works, City Works people there, I think like maybe adjusting their budget and like being able to prepare more, because I know he said like, you know, with salt and everything, we're already well into 2024's budget. So maybe like, again, looking at sort of like, how can we future-proof there? Yeah, that's where I think maybe we should increase spending. But decrease, I think everything looks good to me. I mean, I like our parks, I like our safety, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Rich Condo, Ward 3. My question is, I'd like you to explain your understanding of City Council's role and the council/city manager form of government.
Yeah.
That's part one. And then part two is, how would you work to govern effectively according to our city charter?
Yeah, so my understanding is that, you know, not to just like directly quote the beautiful graph, I'm a visual learner, but you know, city council's up here, city council chooses city manager, who then implements all of the things that city council decides. So, you know, we have that beautiful sort of like T shape, and then like the tree trunk, and then the roots is kind of how I visualize it, if that makes sense. So like y'all are like the sun that absorbs everything from the community, right? You feed that in to you know, over there, city manager, and then it goes down into everyone who works for city and gets it done. And what was the second part of the question? Sorry.
Yeah, the second half is, how would you work to govern effectively according to our city charter?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like with any professional relationship, like working cross-departmentally, you know, that I have always, you know, working with creative teams, dev teams, that sort of thing. You just have to, you know, understand our strengths and the team's strengths and work together in a way that makes sense for everybody, and making sure that, you know, things are getting done in a timely manner. And, you know, if, you know, the staff doesn't have the resources that they need, like how can we do what we do as city council to make that happen for them?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening, Ms. Burns. I have your next question. And what is your area of strongest disagreement with any action taken by the city council in the last 3 years?
I've only been in North Glen a year, so I'll tighten my timeline a little bit there. There really hasn't been anything I've had a strong disagreement with. I think the pandemic, everything was handled like really well. I would have to say my biggest disagreement is a couple weeks ago, I think y'all were talking about funding from the sale of the Broncos, and there was like a no on a water aquatics, like cool, like sports gym. And after the awful dark winter we had, I was like, well, maybe that would be kind of fun. And that's it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's mine, sorry, I was taking
No,
notes.
it's okay. Take your, we have
I'm
12
up
minutes
again.
and 29 seconds.
All right, sorry about that. What steps do you take to eliminate bias from your behaviors and decisions?
Yeah, this is something that's very close to me. One of my previous positions was working at the Leadership Initiative at New York University under Melody Barnes. And it was, all about how to promote diverse and inclusive leadership. And so I think like making sure that we're hearing different perspectives from the people who, are actually impacted by the things that we're talking about really helps. I like to talk to my friends. I like to just like get different perspectives all the time. And like if we're talking about veterans issues, like I'm not myself personally a veteran, but one of my good friends is, and I always talk to her about like what is her perspective. I think like with the unhoused issue, having someone who's actually living that scenario at the table is like really important to help bring different perspectives. And I understand fully that like, I have my sort of intersectionality traits, and that's not everybody. So I try to like look through the lens of everyone else sitting around me to prevent like a me being biased and give a whole picture to issues and topics. Yeah.
Okay, question 8. Please complete this sentence. A city council member should.
I loved this question. A city council member should care about our community, about North Glen, about its future, about its people. I believe that a city council, like, it's the whole point of being here is to want to make things better for our neighbors and our friends that live around us. Yeah, a city council member should care first and foremost, and then, be able to take action to make these things happen for everybody. Yeah.
So you have about 10 minutes left. Question 9 is pretty open. Is there anything else you would like to tell us?
I've loved sitting on CAB. I jumped right into this community as soon as we moved here. Like I said, we closed March 1st of 2022, so we've been here a year, and it's been amazing. I love our neighbors. I feel like the thing about Ward 1 that I love is it's a lot of people like me and my family moving in. It's a lot of Gesundheit. It's a lot of young families who are, having kids, second kid, and moving to the burbs. But it's amazing because, like, the location of North Glen is great. You're still 15 minutes from Rhino. So if you, like, want to pretend you're still a cool mom, you can go meet your friends for lunch sometimes. And it's not that bad. This community is so welcoming and fun that to not want to be a part of it is silly, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much
Yeah,
for
of
your
course.
time. We really appreciate spending this time with you, and now we're done.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming.
Bye. I think so. Good evening.
Good evening, how are you guys?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Excellent. Okay, so here we are. We have 20 minutes together. We are going, there's a timer, so you can monitor your own time.
Okay,
There will be 8 questions, and then question 9 is pretty open-ended, where you can just tell us anything that you would like to make sure we know.
Okay.
We're gonna take turns asking questions, and then we're gonna be taking notes. So if we're not making eye contact, it's because we're trying to capture everything that you're saying.
I get it, thank you.
So I have the first one. What personal attributes do you have that set you apart from others as the best person to fill this vacancy?
Personal attributes that I have. I feel I bring a different perspective to our city council. As I look at it and as I inform myself as to, again, those perspectives, I think that one of the things that I see lacking is just more diverse representation on our council. And so I think I bring that. I think my experience as an educator also allows me to have insight and perspective as to the needs of families, needs of our young people, needs of our communities. And so, again, I've been an educator for 25 years, and so I think that also allows me the opportunity to advocate on behalf of, again, families, communities, and to just, be connected to, again, the people, if you will.
Welcome, Jose. I have your next question. What do you see as opportunities and challenges facing our city? And then second part to that question, what do you see as the opportunities and challenges facing Ward 1, if any different from the city?
Sure. So I've been a resident of the city of North Glen and Ward 1 specifically for upwards of 15 years. In that time, I've seen, our communities grow, expand. I think one of the challenges is just, creating some sustainability within our communities, making sure that, voices within our growing communities are being heard, that there are opportunities for members within our communities. I was outside having a conversation with some of the other applicants and just talking about, for example, one of the things that was mentioned was there's a lack of places to go out to eat, right? And so how do we continue to grow in a way that's sustainable, in a way that appreciates, again, our growing diversity, in a way that acknowledges, again, all of the amazing, amazing things that North Glen has to offer? How do we continue to take pride in our city, again, some of the resources, our outdoor spaces, and I've seen that growth happen, and so that for me is exciting. We have the new rec center. I live right across the street back in the day when Kmart was there, and I'm a big shopper for Kmart, and I was bummed out when it closed. But again, we see opportunities and growth, you know, with Vasa opening up, with other expansions that are taking place across our city. Those are the things that excite me. And again, how do we create opportunities for our residents to just be a part of that growth, and to be excited again about our community. And again, how do we maintain that small city feel as we continue to expand and grow?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, how are you today?
Fine, thank you. Welcome. Describe how you would react to a situation in which the council voted 5-4 to approve a very controversial issue, and you were on the dissenting side.
Well, given my perspectives and my feelings with regards to just any number of topics, I have many times been on kind of the dissenting side. What I appreciate about the opportunity to be involved in that is just the discourse, right? It's just the opportunity to communicate, to be passionate about our perspectives, to be passionate about our positions. You're always going to, you know, have that opposition, right? But I think that what allows government to function is, again, that opportunity to have those conversations, to engage in that discourse, and to kind of hash those things out, and to eventually try to come to some types of consensus that, again, is going to be, it's going to serve our residents, the people that we represent, in the best possible way. Now, again, given that I've been on the losing end, if you will, I don't believe there's a true losing end, but I've been in the minority, I'd like to think that I would continue to fight the good fight, as they say. I would continue to push my position. I would continue to advocate the way I know how, with the hopes that along the lines I can, you know, have people consider their own position, not necessarily change it, but at least give it a second thought. Because I think that again, creates that positive conversation, that positive discourse, right? That opportunity to just take a step back, reflect, and rethink kind of where we're coming from. And I think that sometimes opens up new opportunities to, again, look at things differently and maybe, you know, be heard or, you know, have your position taken into account. And so I'd like to think that I'd be okay with it, but would continue to, you know, advocate and fight for my perspective as well.
Great. And Mr. Hernandez, I have your next question. All right, what areas of city spending do you feel should be increased or decreased?
City spending. So, you know, when I walked in here, I'm not too familiar with the workings of government, of city councils. As I look at the needs within our own community, I think addressing issues such as crime, again, we see growth in our community. Sometimes growth just, again, it creates, you know, opportunities for crime to just run rampant. And so I'd like to see just a continuation of supports and money directed towards not just policing our communities, but creating relationships with, you know, our communities, relationships with our residents for the purpose of making sure that our communities are safe. I'd like to also see maybe money put into just continuing to support recreational outlets for our residents. Again, the rec center is awesome, but just to see more of that, seeing more attention paid to just our you know, outdoor, our parks, our bike paths, those kinds of things. I live not too far from the Greenbelt, and just, you know, appreciate the efforts that go on to just kind of maintain and upkeep those kinds of things. So money dedicated there. And then again, money, I think, dedicated to making sure that our city continues to be a place that appreciates culture and diversity. I think that that's one of the things that, again, as a resident of North Glen and of Ward 1, some of the things that I do see are somewhat lacking. And that doesn't really take into account the growth that we are continuing to see, especially among our Latinx residents and communities.
Thank you.
So I have the next question, Ward 3, and it's a two-part question. So the first part of it is, I'd like you to explain, I know you mentioned that maybe you don't know much about government, but humor me on this, explain your understanding of the role of city council and the council/city manager relationship, that
Sure.
form of government. And then part two would be, how would you work to govern effectively according to our city charter?
Sure. So to the first point, my perception of how city council works is it's a group of individuals tasked with managing our city in a way that takes into account its needs, that prioritizes those needs, and again, manages the budget pieces, the decision-making, again, to effectively support, again, growing communities, support the city. I don't see city council as passing legislation per se, but more minding the needs of, our local communities, our residents, minding the needs of just our city. And again, as far as the city manager, my thinking on that is that, they're tasked with, again, effectively managing those budgets to address, again, the needs that, as a city council, you guys become aware of. So that's kind of the way I perceive it. And so if I were to sit on city council, my hope would be to continue to learn again, to continue to grow my knowledge about what those needs are, even beyond my own ward, to educate myself as to how I can best represent constituents in a way that, again, is equitable, in a way that's fair, and in a way that takes into account all our needs. And I know that that can be a difficult task, but again, as a member of city council, again, I would see my role as again, advocating for that and making sure that the city was managed in such a way as to, again, be mindful of those needs and be supportive of, again, change that needs to happen with our community. And so, and I'd like to think that, we'd find common ground in some of that and just work towards, again, making our city a safe place, a city that's sustainable, a city that continues to grow and prosper.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Hernandez. I have your next question, sir.
Yes, sir.
And that, what is your area of strongest disagreement with this, with any action taken by the city council in the last 3 years, sir?
Area of strongest disagreement, that is a great question. Again, I'm not too enlightened as to, again, the workings of our city council. Something that for me is regrettable. I mean, I keep, for years now, I've been wanting to be more involved. As of late, as my career in education is kind of coming to an end, I'm looking for just an opportunity to continue to be involved in advocating for families and students. So again, I lament that I'm not as informed as I'd like to be, but as I look at things that have been most frustrating for me is stuff like just city works. When it snows, I don't know that some of our streets within Ward 1 get plowed as efficiently as some of the other wards possibly. They just recently put up a turnabout. That frustrated me because it took like 3, 4 weeks for it to get completed, and so it created all kinds of traffic issues. They're putting up a 7-Eleven, and I'm having debates with my neighbors about is that a good thing or is that a bad thing. Personally, I think it's a good thing because I enjoy the 7-Eleven taquitos that they put out. So, but again, in terms of frustrations, I think that's probably been just my biggest frustration overall is just kind of the city works piece, right? So the way we're managing some of our public works, the way we're managing some of our streets, things that are going up. Some of my frustrations too is my perception of the disparity that exists between that exists within even our own communities. And I think there's a glaring disparity between residents that live farther south than from those that live in some of the other areas within the city of Northland. And so that's a frustrating piece too, and that's honestly kind of what brings me here. How can I better represent some of those needs? How can I better represent some of those voices that I think often go unheard for whatever reason? Sometimes we're just not as actively involved as we possibly can be. But again, that's also a frustration. How do we bridge those gaps and serve our communities, our wards in a way that's equitable?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Great, Jose, I have your next question again. What steps do you take to eliminate bias from your behaviors and decisions?
Great question. So as an educator for over 25 years, I've worked very hard to be mindful of my own personal bias, especially when I work hard to represent our families and our students to the best of my ability. There was just to share a quick story, I coached soccer for a long time, middle school soccer, and we had a team that was predominantly Hispanic, predominantly Spanish speaking. I'm a fluent Spanish speaker. And we would go and practice, and I would talk to them in Spanish because, that's how they related to me, and I could communicate that to them. And this is years ago. And I had a player, super awesome player, captain of our team, who happened to be white, who didn't speak any Spanish. And I remember one day she came to me after practice and said, I'm thinking about quitting the team. And I'm like, well, why? And she's like, well, because, you talk Spanish to everybody, and I just feel left out. And at that point, I realized that, I was perpetuating the same type of bias and prejudice and just creating this not very positive feeling on the part of this young student that I was trying to support and mentor and coach, and just made me reflect on my own bias. And so as I've continued to work and as I've continued to grow, I'm always mindful of how I'm serving students, how I'm serving families. I like to think that I would be mindful of how I would be serving our residents because of those experiences, because of, again, my role as an educator who, again, is trying to make sure that all of our students, all of our families have access to opportunities, to resources in a way that, again, is equitable. So, again, that's always just in my mind. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, question 8. Please complete this sentence. A city council member should.
A city council member should be actively involved in their community, should listen to the people he represents, should be, again, mindful of those needs and be educated as to, again, the needs of our ward and our larger communities in our city. I think that sometimes there tends to be this disconnect, right, between people that we choose to represent us and the people themselves. And so I think we have to, again, continue to be actively engaged, actively involved. And again, as my time comes to an end in education, again, I'm looking for the opportunity to continue being actively involved, to continue advocating for students and families and continue representing them the best way that I can. And so I think this would be, a great opportunity for me. And regardless of how this turns out, my hope is to some way, somehow be involved, because I do believe that, again, that's what we need to be doing as, engaged citizens.
So you have about 4.5 minutes left. Is there anything else you would like to tell us?
No, again, just I'm green when it comes to this kind of stuff, but I think that allows for a unique perspective, and I'm sure you guys were all green at one point, and so I appreciate the work that you all do. I know that it's a challenge, but again, I'm looking forward to, again, my own involvement in my local government, and I'm excited about kind of what that might look like, whether that's, a member of city council or just, attending kind of the breakfast with the mayor kind of events or what have you. So I'm excited about just being involved even with, within my own ward, even on my own block. I've had amazing conversations with my neighbors, and, it's just, I want to continue to just grow and be an active part of my community. So thank you guys for the opportunity to interview tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You all have a very good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So our last candidate is scheduled at 6:40. Do you want to see if he's here, if he wants to go soon?
He's here. and I
Oh,
can-
okay. Do you guys want to have a break? Do you need a break before? Or
We
do you
just
wanna-
have one left now?
Just one more. Okay.
I know. Catching that. Yeah.
Last person on the agenda.
No, it was true. Yeah, I said that earlier. Well, hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Yourself?
Good. Nice to see you.
Likewise.
Okay, so we have 20 minutes. We're going to let you manage your own time.
Super.
There will be 8 questions, and then the 9th question is just kind of a catch-all, anything else you want to add. So if you have time left, you can fill in with
Sure.
whatever else. We're going to take turns, and then we're going to take notes. So here we go.
Okay.
What personal attributes do you have that set you apart from others as the best person to fill this vacancy?
Oh, let's see. My unbelievably rosy disposition. No, I'm a jovial guy. I think there are 3 characteristics that anybody who's a representative should have. Hopefully you're smart, hopefully you're likable, and hopefully you're a good communicator. I hope I'm all 3 of those, although a smart person doesn't go around saying how smart they are. It's not very smart to do that. A likable person doesn't really go around saying how likable they are, so that's really a subjective thing. It's really up to you. Hopefully I'm a good communicator. Hopefully I'll show that today, right now, and you can agree with me on that. But if you have those 3 things, I think you can be a really great representative.
Hello.
Hi.
I have your next question. What do you see as opportunities and challenges facing our city? And then second part to that is, what do you see as the opportunities and challenges facing Ward 1, if any different from the city?
Sure. Well, North Glen is landlocked, so we have to, with obviously the other cities around it, so there's not a whole lot of room for expansion geographically. So we just have to renew what we already have, and so we have to do that very, smartly, intelligently, and we have to work with our neighbors to see if we can, in an intelligent way, expand anything that we want to do. Do we want do we want more dense population? Is that seen as growth? Is growth always the best thing? these are the challenges that we face. Obviously, some of the big ones now are probably the most important one is housing prices, housing affordability. And if you stack North Glen up against the rest of Metro Denver, North Glen, I think, is one of the more affordable areas in the Metro Denver area. So I think we have that going for us, and we certainly did when I moved here 10, 11 years ago. I got a steal, I think. But now my values of, I mean, I don't know that I would be able to afford it if I was the same guy that I was that long ago. So affordability is probably the top concern. Everybody's concerned about crime and homelessness. And so how do we handle that? That's something we can really tackle as a city with the proper policies, I think. But what was the second part of the question?
If it's different in Ward 1 versus any other part of the city, so if
Oh.
there's something that stands out for Ward 1.
Ward 1, I would say, I'm really focused on the industrial area in Ward 1, that's on the Irma, just east of Irma. I've heard that there's some water mitigation projects that could happen, because if they don't happen, there can be no other development. So maybe some people want to develop over there and they can't because of some water mitigation issues. That's what I've heard. I'd like to either verify that or correct my knowledge on that. But I think that the long-term prospects for that area are not good if people can't develop and can't make changes and can't, do things because of water mitigation issues.
Great, thank you.
Hi,
Hi, welcome.
thank you.
Describe how you would react to a situation in which the council voted 5-4 to approve a very controversial issue, and you were on the dissenting side.
So you win some and you lose some. I was in the minority in the State House when I was a representative for House District 34, and so we lost a lot. There was a lot of losing when you're in the minority, because that's how it works. But what you can do is, let's say you're really trying for a program and the program does not pass, and that program is supposed to deal with homelessness, let's say. Over the next year, you keep an eye on the issue, and you say, hey, has the issue gotten worse or better in the last year? And then if you can bring that issue back to the council and say, look, we voted this down last year. This is what's happened with that issue. Perhaps we can take another look at it, and maybe you can sway one of those other votes, two of those other votes, and maybe it can be unanimous because you've made the argument. You don't just, you don't hold grudges for sure, but you keep your eye on the ball, and whether it's disliking a program or liking a program or whatever idea that was controversial, it's controversial for a reason. There's probably good arguments for and against. But if you're on the losing side of that, you just keep your eye on the ball and look at it for future, opportunities.
All right, well, Mr. Winkler, my question is, what areas of city spending do you feel should be increased or decreased?
Ooh. Well, I know we've spent a truckload of money on some major issues in the last handful of years. Obviously with the rec center and the police justice center, and I think we've got the new city hall coming up. So I think we've spent a lot of money, and I don't think any of those things are bad, but a gross expansion of, I don't know if there's a lot of expansion. I'd like to see us hang and make sure that we're on good footing before we increase spending on a lot of stuff. I'm moderately conservative when it comes to spending. I just want to make sure that we're not, getting over our skis. And I don't think we have. I've researched the budget, and I don't think we're over our skis. And I'd ask the city manager, hey, how are our skis? And I think that we're doing okay from my reading. I would talk to the chief of police and see I know a lot of people are worried about crime, and see if the police force has the resources they need. Maybe, how many police chiefs have ever said, no, we got enough money? I don't know if that's ever been said, ever, but trying to assess whether that's something that needs more. If there's any cutting, there's a few places, but there's a few places where I say, but it's really with a fine tooth, or not a fine tooth comb, it's a scalpel, not an axe, that I would look at some of these things where we can just be efficient. By and large, I look at the budget and I think we're on pretty good footing. I don't think we're outrageous, and so just looking with a scalpel to say, hey, is this really necessary? I saw that there's training in the last 2 years, like the training budgets of everything have gone up from 300% to like 1,000%. So training has gotten crazy. I'm not sure what training everyone in every department is going through that's tripling or 10 times the budget. I don't know what that's about. That's something I would ask about and say, hey, what's with all the training? That's something I noticed as I perused through the budget.
Thank you.
Okay, my question here from Ward 3 is two parts. One is I'd like you to explain your understanding of City Council's role in government here at a municipal level, and also City Council / City Manager relationship in our form of government. And then the second part is like you to describe how you would work to govern effectively according to our city charter.
So as I understand the city council and the city manager does, and the city council advises. And I think, I'm sure lots of information comes back from the city manager, and we can have all sorts of great ideas on the city council, but the city manager says, whoa, hold on a minute. In order to do that, it's gonna, I'm sure, endless communication back and forth. But as far as I understand it, it's not really the city manager's job to go out and get the consensus of the people. The city council is the representative of the people. And so we are to communicate with our constituents. The constituents are to communicate with us, not necessarily with the city manager. The city manager does, and the city council communicates. The second part of your question, how
would you work to govern effectively according to our city charter?
well, hopefully, as a city council member, I'd be an effective communicator, because that's my issue, or that's my role, as I understand it now. You're all more experienced than I am at being city council members, so if there's something I don't understand about it, I promise I'd learn quickly and correct course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Winkler. I have your next question, sir. What is your area of strongest disagreement with any action taken by this city council in the past 3 years, sir?
I looked at this on the sample questions, the sample list, and I don't know that I have a very good one. Most of the issues are passed unanimously. Most of the votes are unanimous, right? There's lots of the gears of government turning. That's what I always kind of tell people. When we say, oh, in the state legislature, oh, we passed 446 new laws this year, and everyone says, my goodness, do we really need all that? And you say, no, listen, we passed that many. We only proposed 600-something, and 400-something passed. That's the gears of government turning. And there's a lot of gears of government turning. There's a lot of unanimous decisions by the city council because the city's doing pretty well. The city manager's doing a good job. We just need to reaffirm or reapprove things year after year, things like that. Are there any, I don't know, I would be excited to learn about some of the controversial things on the city council. I know we've had actually quite a bit of turnover in the city council in the last 2 years. And I've talked to some people and they haven't been 100%. There's been some strife. So, you know, I like to get along with everybody. Strife typically wouldn't come from me, I would imagine. But I'm interested to kind of learn about those issues. And so I'm sure there's some controversy, but quite frankly, it hasn't trickled down to me as a lowly citizen of North Glen. Perhaps I haven't been paying as much attention, but obviously, I'm here to take advantage of an opportunity to take a deep dive, and I'd be ready for it for sure, and to understand all those.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Right, Mr. Winkler, I have your next question. What steps do you take to eliminate bias from your behaviors and decisions?
I saw that question and I said, I think that's an interesting one. I mean, we all have biases. And what do we mean by biases? If we mean biases just the way that I think versus the way that someone else thinks, I mean, we all think our separate ways. How do we eliminate the way I think? I think it's an interesting question, and I don't quite understand it. If what you're saying is, when someone disagrees with me, do I just discard everything they say? That would sort of be bias, right? And I don't think that that's my personality. I think I'm a pretty open-minded guy. And so how do I eliminate my own bias? Well, it's difficult for anybody to eliminate their own bias. It's whether or not they're open-minded or not to see a countervailing point of view and be open to it. If someone else can adequately describe their point of view and I can disagree with it, and I can boil it down to the reasons I disagree with it and the fundamental philosophies, then I think you're sound by saying, I disagree with you, and that's fine, and I'm not biased. I've just analyzed it as such. But if someone comes in and they look different than me and I'm not going to listen to them because I think they're just different, that would be unreasonable bias. I don't think I have a lot of unreasonable bias. I think I just try to analyze every issue down to fundamental core principles, and if I'm for something or against something, I want to know, I need to know why. I'm so incredibly over-analytical. If I, like I said, in some of my writings there, I don't have so many opinions as I have well-thought-out positions. Okay, we all have opinions. I might like the color green. Your favorite color is red. No big deal. Those are opinions. But whether or not this tax policy is pro-growth or anti-growth, whatever, those are well-thought-out positions. And that's not a matter of bias. That's just a matter of, my analysis takes me here. Your analysis might take you there. We might disagree. But I'm not biased against you. That's more, just a difference of analysis, if that makes sense. Hopefully that wasn't too convoluted of an answer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, question 8. Please complete this sentence. A city council member should.
A city council member should be open and patient with their constituents. A city council member should be educated and aware of, all facets of the city, all the services of the city, just all of the characteristics of the city. A city council member should be able to communicate well with their neighbors and fellow city dwellers. A city council member should have a positive outlook for the city. A city council member should be friendly. A city council member should should make their city proud.
Thank you. Okay, so you have about 4 minutes left. Is there anything else you would like to tell us?
Sure. You all can read what I wrote to some of the questions. I definitely wanted to point out one thing, the 2 different letters of recommendation. I'm not sure if you know those 2 people, one from Kim Ransom and one from Jonathan Singer. If you know anything about those 2 people, those are 2 people that I served with in the state legislature. Kim is about as conservative as they get. She is on the right. And Jonathan Singer is on the left. That is, these are 2 people that are about as far out on the spectrum as you get in the state legislature. I had them both write me a letter because I'm friends with both of them. I get along with everybody. well, I shouldn't say everybody, that's, I also always try to be truthful, so I won't say everybody, but my goodness, most people that you're able to get along with, I do. And I can disagree with people vehemently. I disagree with Kim Ransom on some issues, and I disagree with Jonathan Singer on issues, and I consider them both friends. And when I called these people up to ask them for a quick letter, they said yes, and then we ended up chatting for about an hour with each of them because we really enjoy each other's company and we catch up and all of that stuff. So I'm a jovial fellow. I really try to be likable. I try to, coax smiles out of people, and I try to educate them. I've been interested in government and public policy since my early 20s. And I've been interested in politics, and I've served a little. I've had that excellent opportunity, and I really loved it. When I was able to finish out the term that I did in the state legislature, they said, oh my goodness, I came right in the middle of a term, and everyone said it was like drinking water from a fire hose. And I said, yeah, well, I'm really thirsty, so bring it on. And I really don't feel like I had a problem. I hope I did a good job. I made lots of very, very good friends. I learned an incredible amount, and the way that the elections work and the districts work, I wasn't meant to go back, but I'm very passionate about serving, and if this is another opportunity for me to do so, I think I've stepped up a couple of times, wanting to do so. I have no problem committing, and when I do get the opportunity, I step in with both feet and do so with zeal.
Well, thank you for spending some time with us.
Sure.
That's excellent. You
All
did-
good? Any other little questions?
No, that's all we have.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
You too.
So now's a good time. Well, we have a few minutes. If anyone needs to take a break, going to get more food, water.
We get ours back, look at? We both hold green pens.
Okay, so you have in front of you, take a minute to act, if you have questions about the data.
There is an error that I see now that I rushed through this.
That's okay, you want to tell us?
On the table that I copied from what Rich provided last time for the process, I entered the total points for Stephen Blackburn incorrectly. So just want to make sure everyone's aware of that. It should be 164 instead of 161 as a total.
I don't see 161 on mine.
It says 164.
It says 164. Oh, there's a second page.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
got it. Okay. Yeah, that was even last time. Let's see. So, okay. Does anyone need more time?
No, ma'am.
So based on total number of points, we have a candidate up front by about a little under 30-point spread. That same candidate was ranked as the first place candidate by 4 out of 6 of us, and was a second place candidate for a 5th. Does anyone want to share or speak to your ratings? Or advocate in any way? Rich, go ahead.
So I'm looking at the second table. When you look at the third column, Billy Burns has got 30%. Total score, total points. So it's a very clear breakout because the next candidate comes from that is compared to 41. So I think it underscores that candidate on Burns really is a standout. So that, when I interpret that, it seems to be across this body, this group of folks. It's just, and we should show.
Anyone else want to weigh in, or?
I would agree. It seems that in that column, we were at least more consistent with each other, I think, in terms of scores for that candidate, 30%.
If your scores differ from the group, do you want to advocate or talk to your perspective?
Well, I probably, being new to this, I think I scored too low on some of these in hindsight.
Okay.
But I'll share this with you. My observation was I did not score high on people that didn't do their homework on Northglenn being a home rule city. It was pretty obvious. There's only one that I think had a close understanding of what that meant in terms of the law and the statutes. And for that reason, I marked way down on all of those responses. One thought he had it figured out, but again, they weren't real crisp on the response, but it was close enough, so poor little guy. I think I went uber conservative on my scoring, just to be honest with it. And maybe I wasn't fair to some of the candidates. I was looking for articulations and the ability to share and speak their piece. That to me was important. Which is why I gave the high rating to the candidate that
So I also feel the same way as Councilman Long. I was looking to see today if the candidate was able to speak very clearly, concisely, and in a very engaging sort of manner. I thought candidate number one, Burns, could be clear. Those were of the four that we saw. I feel like they were very polished. Very
I appreciated all of them for stepping forward. I think each of the candidates for me had a strength or an opportunity that really set them apart as far as they shine with. I think I appreciated the honest reflections and the honest portrayal of either the skill set they have or the skill set they learn. And I think that came through for all of them.
It's interesting to note that Mr. Hernandez scored 204 points, puts him in second place, but he didn't end up being. Yeah. Sends a signal.
Yeah, I think for mine, if I go back to my ratings, it was pretty consistent, solid down the line.
Would be very much, he's really interested in talking about his information.
Joanna, I don't know if there's a place to capture this. I mean, in my heart of hearts, I'd never like to do this again. But if we do, I have noticed the repetitive nature between some of the interview questions and the application. And I'm wondering if that serves us well. Or if, and I didn't notice it till today because there was a candidate that said almost word for word what was in the application. And I was like, oh, I feel like I've heard this before. And to look in there, it was like, oh, it's exact. So the question mirrors itself. And I just made myself a process note. Like maybe we have interview questions and then the application questions are not the same. And then we get more of a round perspective. Does that make sense?
I would support that notion.
You look puzzled.
I am a little puzzled. Are you saying that the application that folks submitted, that those questions were the same as the interview questions?
Some are close enough
Okay.
that the answers are almost identical. So
Okay.
like one, well, it says list your skills, abilities that make you relevant, right? That's very similar to our first question. And so we were hearing that response almost for a second time. And I just thought we could maximize it if we didn't duplicate it that way.
Okay.
Well, perhaps maybe this is.
Probably not today. I just am
Well-
asking Joanna to hold on to it. And the other one, Joanna, is the one that says, what are the most important issues facing the city and how would you propose they be addressed? Just in the future, if we ever find ourselves here again, that we look at those 20.
Will do, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, having been through the process before, my 2 cents are that there are some of those 20 questions that were not asked that I thought carried, in my opinion, more relevance than some of the ones that we asked.
I think that's good input.
The other thing I want to share is, I want to give hats off to our city clerk for being so thorough on just about every piece of information we could possibly want to get through this process. Thank you very much. Joseph.
Absolutely.
Wonderfully done.
Nick,
Yes,
do you
ma'am.
want to weigh in?
I just think Burns and Winkler are by far head and shoulders above the 2 other candidates and how well prepared they were. But it seems like the group has spoken.
We haven't actually proposed any.
Well, the numbers have spoken.
Okay. So does someone want to make a motion that we move forward with the candidate that scored the most points?
Motion that we select Ms.
It's not a
sorry.
vote, I
Okay.
know that.
Thank you.
I was just trying to collect consensus. So,
Motion that we consider Ms. Burns as our candidate for Ward 1.
yes, everyone support that? Yeah. Okay. So Joanna, can you let the candidate know?
I will do that.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we have no other items tonight, so we are adjourned. Thank you so much.